So when we were doing section 6.3, we were talking about the FOIL method. And I kind of told you, I don't really like the FOIL method. But if you do like the FOIL method, feel free to use that for section 6.4 material to do the test. But I said for beginners, this method, 6.4, is known as the ARCH method or the AC method. I think it's the better one because it's not as frustrating. You don't have to try different pieces to see if it fits or doesn't fit. Here we have a 3-term that we did last section in section 6.3 as the FOIL method. This one, I'm going to show you that we can take the same problem and do it as the ARCH method. Like I said, the ARCH method works for any trinomial. ARCH method, in actuality, doesn't actually do any factoring. So you might be saying, well, what's the sense of learning the ARCH method if you're not doing factoring? What the ARCH method really does, all it takes is 3 terms, and it's going to stretch it to a 4-term polynomial. When it's a 4-term polynomial, then we're going to do the grouping method to do actual factoring. So you'll notice when I do the ARCH method, you won't see me do any sets of parentheses, okay? When I do parentheses, that's when I'm actually starting to do the factoring. You saw that in the grouping method. You saw that in when I was doing the GCF, my leftovers were in parentheses. Even when we did the FOIL, we did our 2 sets of parentheses. When you do the ARCH method, we're not going to work with any parentheses. Now, as I hinted last time, the ARCH method is a long method. It's actually 8 steps. Now, some of the steps go pretty quickly. The first step, and the reason why we call it the ARCH method, is because I'm going to multiply the first term of the coefficient with the last term, and the last term might be another coefficient or a constant. So you'll see me do this big arch to multiply those 2 numbers. When I multiply, I'll get a product, and step 2 says, take that product, the answer from step 1, and do the combos list. Remember, 1 times this, 2 times this, 3 times this, whatever gives us that number. From that, we're going to add or subtract the list. And then this is, again, based on the last sign of the trinomial. If it's a plus sign, you're going to add the combo list. If it's a minus sign, you're going to subtract the combo list. Then number 4, this is the best part. Choose a combo that matches the coefficient of the middle term of the trinomial. If your combo, when you add or subtract, if any of those numbers do not match the middle of the trinomial, you can stop and say that your answer is prime, especially if you don't have a GCF. But if you do have a match, then this is where we go to step 5. Split the middle term of the trinomial into 2 terms. Why am I going to split it into terms? Because I told you that the ARCH method is going to take a 3-term trinomial and make it into 4 terms. And to make it into 4 terms, I have to split the middle term of the trinomial to become 2 terms. Basically, I need 2 coefficients, and that comes from the chosen combo. And I need to have the variable part. So whatever the middle term is, maybe it's x, make sure you bring x down to both of the terms. Once we get there, we need to have sign for the split. Are there going to be 2 positives? Are there going to be 2 negatives? 1 positive and 1 negative. And then we're going to bring down the first term and the last term. So I'll have 2 terms from the split, the first and the last term of the trinomial, so that I can have 4 terms. Once you have those 4 terms, we're going to do the grouping method. And you remember the grouping method we learned in 6.1. Parentheses around the first 2 terms, parentheses around the last 2 terms, take out the GCF in the first set of parentheses, take out the GCF in the second set of parentheses, and then see that you'll have 2 matching parentheses that match. That becomes 1 set of your binomials, and the other binomials would be the GCFs from step 2 and step 3. This you can review in the lecture notes and the video in section 6.1. So now we know we have 8 steps. Let's take this guy and do it as the ARCH method. So the first thing I said is we're going to create an arch. We're going to multiply the leading coefficient times the last term. The last term could be a constant, like it is here, or another coefficient. So if we multiply this number with this number, we get 6. forget about the sign issues, okay? I don't care if this was a -3 or a +3, just look at the numbers. Because when we did combos, we always do combos pretending that it's a positive number. We never did combos list if it was a negative. So the same thing here, just multiply the two numbers, forget about the sign, and we get our answer is 6. So that's step 1. Step 2 is just do all the combos of 6. Right? So if I do the combos of 6, you know 1 times 6 will give you 6, and we know that 2 times 3 gives you 6. These are the only combos, because 3 would be a repeat. Kind of just like a little bit of that shortcut method where I did combos. So I'm done step 2. Step 3 says once you do the combos list, we're either going to have to add or subtract that list. So look at the last sign of the trinomial. Notice the last sign is a minus sign. That means that we're going to subtract our list. So we got 1 and 6, and we got 2 and 3. Next, we got to choose a combo. Remember, step 4 says look at the middle term of the trinomial and see which one matches that coefficient. So the middle is a 5, so the only one that gives us a 5 is the 1 and a 6. Now remember, we are not using any parentheses here. We're not actually factoring. So you're not putting 1 and 6 in any set of parentheses. What are you doing next for step 5? Is you're going to take the middle term of the trinomial and you're going to split it into 2 terms. So let me erase to make a little space. You're going to take this -5x and split. See how I do like a little split? I'm going to take this and make it 1 and 6. Why 1 and 6? Is because remember when we did our list, our combo list, it is our chosen combo. So I did 1 and 6. Does it matter if I put the 1 first or the 6 first? No, not in the arch method. So now that I have the 1 and the 6, I have the chosen combo will be the new coefficients for each term. But then I have to do part B, which is bring down that variable part. So notice the variable part. Remember, variable part is the letter and whatever exponent is here. Make sure you bring down the variable part to both of them. So this will be 1x and 6x. See how the variable part here went down to this term and this term. Because basically, if we combine these 2 terms together, we'll get just 1 term. I'm trying to split it, though, into 2 terms. So we need some signs. We need to know if they're going to be 2 pluses or 2 minuses or a plus and a minus. So now that we got down to the split, the sign of the split says look at the last sign of the trinomial again. If it's a plus, we're going to have the same or matching signs. And if it's a minus sign, we're going to have different signs. So let's see if it's the same or if they're going to be different. So notice, anytime that we subtract our combos, you'll notice that we'll always have different signs. So these 2 guys, the splits, must have different signs from each other. So that means 1 plus and 1 minus. But where does the plus go and where does the minus go? Typically we were putting the signs in first, but now I have the numbers first. So we have a step here that says, look at the 2 combos. You got a 1x and a 6x. The higher coefficient of the split term will always get the same sign as the middle term of the trinomial. That just means is whoever is the bigger number, the higher number, will always shoot up the ladder and get the same sign as the middle. So notice this is the bigger one, so I shoot up the ladder. This one must get the minus sign. Because they're different, this cannot be the minus sign because that would make it the same. It has to be a plus sign. You know that plus 1x minus 6x, if you combine them, that's how I get the -5x. That's how I get the split. Once I got the signs, then it says bring down the first term and the last term of the trinomial. So the first term of the trinomial is the 2x squared Notice I just brought him down. I didn't touch him, just brought him down. And this constant term, -3, I brought it down. When you have this, notice 2x squared plus 1x minus 6x minus 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. You actually completed the arch method. And you might be saying, wait, I don't have any factors. I don't have any parentheses. The arch method doesn't do any factoring. All it does is just changes it from 3 terms into 4 terms. When it's 4 terms, you can do what we call the grouping method. Remember the grouping method? You should be pros because we had a quiz on it. You're going to do parentheses around the first 2 terms and parentheses from the last 2 terms. Remember, the grouping method works with parentheses. So by doing the grouping method, this is where we're actually factoring. In the first set of parentheses, you're going to see if there is a GCF. Does it have matching parentheses, same letter, same number, or does it start with a negative? You can see they only have the same letter. So my GCF is x. So if I take out x out of each term, remember that gives me my leftovers. For my leftovers in the first term, 2x squared divided by x is 2x. And then here, 1x divided by x, you know when there's a tie, they cancel out, but I'm left with plus 1. In the second set of parentheses, you're going to see if there's another GCF. Here, we don't have matching parentheses, we don't have the same letter, but we do have the same number. Remember, 6 has a hidden 3 in it, 2 times 3. So this has a 3 and this has a 3. So we're going to take out a 3. And remember how we said whatever this sign is, we purposely put it in the second set of parentheses. You must bring it down as part of the GCF. So your GCF is not only 3, it's a -3. So I'm going to get my leftovers by just dividing out by that GCF of -3. And then my leftovers, you can see I'm going to get positive 2x, positive 1. In the grouping method, these parentheses must match. We know these have to match is because we found a combo that worked when we were doing the arch method, which means these must match. When they match, remember, take them out and put it as one set of parentheses. And then the GCF that you did here and here from step 2 and 3 make up your other binomial. There's our answer without doing the trial and error from the FOIL method. Again, a lot more steps, but we're going to show you the other problem where we had to try it so many times that this is going to be a little bit cleaner, that you only have to do it once and it's not as frustrating. But what I wanted to point out again, arch method, you're not actually doing any factoring. You're actually stretching it into 4 terms so that you can do the grouping method to do the factoring. There's your answer.